Hey, how you doing? It's your boy Brogi Naric back again with another review. And in this video, we're going to be talking about Netflix's live action rendition of Cowboy Bebop, which recently dropped on Netflix. This was something that I was anticipating because for a couple of years now, because this was in development for a while. There was some they had to take some time off because John Cho, the main actor, got injured, so that pushed things back. Pandemic happened, that pushed things back, but I was still interested to see this because Cowboy Bebop is my favorite anime. I'm not the hugest anime person, but my favorite, my number one, is Cowboy Bebop. I remember when it would air on Adult Swim. I didn't watch it then, but my older brother got me into it, and I fucking love this anime. So when it was announced, there was rumors they wanted to do a movie for a while. I think Warner Brothers was trying to do it, but they couldn't get it. Then this Netflix show happened. Netflix has a terrible track record with live action animes. There was that what was the one they did? The Death Note that's pissed off a lot of people. I know nothing about Death Note, didn't watch it, didn't care. But this was something that I cared about, so I was worried. They announced the cast, which had me further worried because it's like I love John Cho, but that was just a random pick. I thought for Spike of all actors, and why is Spike now Asian? Because Spike wasn't Asian like at all in the anime, but whatever. Um, and then the black guy's Jet, which I figured was going to happen. Random lady is Faye, sure, why not? Another random guy is Vicious, sure, why not? But I still was willing to give it a chance because some of the creators of the original anime was working in this show. The original music composer was working on this. It was developed by Chris Yost, who is he's a really good writer. Chris Yost has done a lot of stuff, especially when it comes to like comic book stuff, especially with Marvel. So he has a great track record, but he's also done some bad shit too. But he's definitely like a guy that is a fan who's going to try his best to make things as close as possible to the source material, but still change it a little bit. And that's kind of what this show is. The series is 10 episodes long, and it's based on, once again, the Cowboy Bebop anime. And I have to say, I get where they were trying to do with this one, because this is a weird adaptation, because I would say if you're not a fan of the anime, if you've never seen the anime, you know nothing of it, this might be a decent enough, solid enough show where you're kind of like, oh, this is kind of interesting. We got bounty hunters in the future. One of the main guy, he's got this past connected to this mafia that's coming back to haunt him, and the other two members have their past, but they all work together in this ragtag group hunting down wacky bad guys. And for the initial part, they get the concept right. It's just the execution was not great. And it's frustrating because there are moments that are just one to one directly from the anime. Like the intro. The intro, their version of the intro in live action is the best thing about this show. At least in my opinion. That is the best. They fucking nailed it. They had the music, they had it's the exact sequences. It looks really good, almost like solid, almost like really good fan made, but it still looks good. It's really good. Um, the costuming for the most part is good, especially when they're directly pulling from the anime. Um, Certain references, certain things that are designed, like the ships look really good. But then, and they'll get close, but then they'll do some dumb shit where they'll just, for no reason, change characters' backgrounds. Not necessarily make it any better, but just different. And most of the stuff that they do change does not enhance a single fucking thing. I can't think of. There's probably like one thing that they did with involves one of the bad guys that enhanced the show, or at least enhanced that episode. I would say not the show, just that episode, which I thought was interesting. Um, the show, at least what like the first 4 or 5 episodes, are directly pulling from the anime. They're taking certain episodes, remixing them a little bit or a lot, but still you know what episodes they're pulling from. And then I think about episode 7. I think it's up to 6. 7 is when it just starts to go off the fucking rails and it starts doing its own shit, and that's when it gets really bad because it's like they're making their own stuff, and their own shit is not that good compared to what they're pulling from, and it's like, but do you need just a one-to-one remake of the anime and live action? No, but what they changed is not better than what was already established. So what are we doing here? It's very frustrating. This was a very frustrating view. I was trying to get into it, but as it kept going, it just got more annoying and more, and just not as good. Um, but let's talk about some of the positives. I'm gonna get into spoilers, but spoilers will be coming a little bit later. If you want spoilers, you can jump to them in the time description. But like I said, pros: the recreation of the intro, really good. Now the chemistry and the banter between Jet, who was played by Mustafa Shakir, and Spike, who was played by John Cho, that was really good. Like the chemistry between those two, the bickering and the bantering, but then also like the camaraderie was really good. They felt like friends, even more so in the anime. They felt like even closer in this, which was an interesting take. And it worked. I have to say they did great. I think Mustafa Shakir's Jet is probably the best. He does the best in the show, even if he does have some goofy moments. This show is trying. One of the things that kind of surprised me was the show is definitely trying to feel like a live action cartoon. Some moments is kind of good, at least with the action is good. But then there are other moments with the acting and the bickering and the playfulness. It's trying too much to be like a cartoon in live action, and it doesn't quite work. It reminds me of, and I know a lot of people love this movie, but it reminds me of very much like Speed Racer, which I do not care for that film. That movie was trying too much to be like a live action cartoon, and it didn't work for me. Most of it didn't work for me. There was like one scene in that entire movie that worked for me, and this show reminds me of that, where it's trying to be too loud and too expressive, over the top with the humans, and it's like you realize like it's live action. It's not a cartoon, so you can tone it back down. You can have it here and there, but to go full force with it the whole time, I think was not the best way to handle it. They should. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think this show would have benefited from being more of a gritty and darker rendition of the show, at least for the most part, because it relied too much on the wackiness, in my opinion, and not a good execution. A good execution, I would say, would be something like Scott Pilgrim versus the World, where that's like a live action cartoon, but it still worked. This just not so much, in my opinion. Now, even though I said all that, the cinematography is pretty good. They definitely got some of that. I can't always say it's Tarantino style because he is that, but it's that action black exploitationist vibe. Like they got some of that. The kung fu films, like they do a very good job with the action for the most part, I will say, and it's shot very well. The sets, and like I said, the sets and recreations of different things from the anime looks really good. They had a sizable budget for most of this. Now the new music that they add to the series, I thought was all really good, and of course the music from the anime that they throw in here is all great, and they used it very well. I think about how they used it, certain things. And then there's a moment that happens in the last episode where they use a song and a moment that I love, but they fucked up the moment, and I audibly booed at the screen because it pissed me the fuck off. But because it was far less epic than what it was in the anime. But anyway, but those are the positives. Now, negatives. Um, the way this show handled a lot of these characters, I thought was not great. What they did with Vicious is the worst offender. Vicious is fucking terrible. He's played by Alex Hassel, who, when he was first announced, I was like, why is this guy playing Vicious? He looks nothing like Vicious. My thing with Vicious is in my head, Vicious is a guy who looks like an angel, but he acts like a fucking demon. And so he's got to be like very handsome, but then like he's also got to be like very like vicious, you know. And this guy, not to judge the man off his looks, but he already looks like a goof, and they play him like a goof in this show. Like he's a fucking spoiled rich brat idiot, which is not what Vicious is. He does kick some ass, but he's also not that threatening. He's whiny, and granted, Vicious was a bit whiny in the anime, but Vicious is also very threatening at the same time. And it worked better because he was a younger guy. I don't know why they decided to make Jet and Vicious, not Jet, Spike and Vicious so old. Because in the anime, they're supposed to be like in their late 20s, like 27. In this, they're like in their 40s for some reason. I don't know why they felt the need to do that. That was weird. Because, it's about Vicious is like a young guy who's like taking over this mob, and he's like, fuck tradition and new generation. We're going to do this type of thing, and you lose that by him being like an older guy. He just comes off like a dumbass. But anyway, Vicious was not handled well. Julia, they give her more screen time in this. I guess for some reason they felt the need to do that. I didn't care for most of it. The actress that played her was okay. Elena Satine, she was okay, but what they did with her was fucking no, and I didn't care for most of it. I'll get more of that in the spoilers. Grin, who's another side character, he's like a character in my favorite episodes, Jupiter Jazz Part 1 and 2. Fucking wasted. They took an interesting character who, granted, was back in the 90s. He was in a way a representation of an LBGT character, and I guess they felt the need to take anything interesting about the character and just reduced it to a man who wears a dress. That's all they did with Grin. So fucking wasted. Now Faye's tough. Faye could have been better. She was played by Danny Ella Pineda, who I've only seen in was it Jurassic World or whatever. And I fucking hated her in that. She's okay in this. They changed Faye. They relied more on more of the obnoxious humor as opposed to the sex appeal, which in the anime she was definitely sexy and used her sex appeal, which was also like this wacky, not wacky, but like she was this brash sort of shit talker, and it relied more on the shit talker aspect. But what she was saying wasn't all that great and very cheesy. A lot of this is cheesy for some reason. The anime wasn't this cheesy, so I don't know why they felt it to make it even more cheesy. Hence the whole live action cartoon thing. But she could have been better. She wasn't god awful, but she could have been way better. They changed certain elements in her backstory for no fucking reason. I don't know why they felt the need to do that, but it was just annoying. Yeah, and then of course Radical Edward is in the show. Just cringe. There was a reason why she's like the fourth main character of the ensemble. There's a reason why they didn't show her in any of the promotional stuff, because it was supposed to be a surprise and it was fucking terrible. And if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to hit the like button, share it, and subscribe to the channel. We're still growing. We can use your help. And thanks for doing that. Now let's get back into the video. Some other problems that I had with this. Weird casting choices. They gender bent various characters for no real rhyme or reason. Race swapped them too for no real rhyme or reason, because the show was already, this is like one of the most diverse animes of all time, which for some reason they decided to change it up even more. So I don't fucking know. Let's see, what's some other things I had. There's a twist. Oh my god, there's a twist cliffhanger at the end, which is just not good and does not make me excited to see what the fuck they're going to do in season 2, because it was just like out of the blue. Like I said, by episode 6, they started to stray off and do their own shit and their own interpretations, and they blown through a lot of stuff. So I don't know what the fuck they're going to do for season 2. I don't want to see what they're going to do for season 2. I don't know if this has been renewed for season 2. I'm gonna pass though. I'm done. By the end of this, I was like, no, I'm done. All the goodwill is just fucking wasted. So yeah, if I was to give this show, first of all, talking about my favorite episode. My favorite episode of this show was episode 1, Cowboy Gospel, which was basically their version of the first episode of the anime. And I thought they did a pretty good job at it. And this was the episode to be like, hey, let's try to convince these hardcore fans as much as we can. They put their best foot forward. And as they kept walking, it got worse and worse. But yeah, so that would be my favorite episode. It's their version of Asteroid Blues. And now, if I was to give Netflix's Cowboy Bebop, or Netflix's live action Cowboy Bebop a grade, my grade would be a D or a 3 out of 10. God damn, I haven't given a D or a 3 out of 10 in a long time, and I had to do it for this because, like I said, by the end of it, I was just pissed. I was like, God damn it! Like I was riding along, I was riding it out, but by the end of it, with that cliffhanger, that fucking cameo with Ed, and just seeing how they left the show and like, oh, what they're gonna do for the next season? Oh, they're gonna have to do a lot of their own original shit, and their original shit was trash. So no, I'm not sticking around for that bullshit. No. So I would say if you never watched the anime, check out the show. If you like the show, definitely watch the anime. Watch the movie. But if you're a hardcore fan, I would advise you, don't waste your time. It's just gonna annoy the shit out of you. Just don't waste your fucking time. Maybe watch the first episode. And after that, just cut it off. Just cut it the fuck off, because it's just gonna get worse. So yeah, but that's all I got to say for non-spoilers. So stick around, because I'm gonna get into some spoilers. Like I said, I love this show. I got the OG DVD box. It took forever for me to get this. I got this shit at Best Buy. I need to get the Blu-ray. I don't own the movie, but like I said, this Cowboy Bebop is my favorite anime. I was morbidly curious to see how this was going to go. Then the casting came out. Like, John Cho's an odd pick, but I gotta say he does a good enough job as Spike. He does a good enough job as Spike. He looks great in the outfit. I think he's just he's too old. B, Spike's not Asian. I don't know why they felt the need to make Spike Asian. One of the things that they did with Spike that they didn't do with Spike in the show, which I thought was missing from his personality, was he was a little too nice. He was a little too nice compared to the anime, and they didn't really nail home the this is a guy from the streets vibe. They mentioned, like, he's from Mars and you gotta be poor from Mars, but then they changed the story for what they did to Vicious, which I didn't like. But there was Spike, besides being a badass, he was also like a good, like, sleight of hand thief, and there was moments where I thought they were gonna implement some of that, but they didn't for some weird reason. I don't know. That's just a minor nitpick. He looks great, like I said, in the outfit and all that. He did really good in the action scenes for the most part. Although I think it was episode 8 where he fights Mad Bro. That was disappointing. As it started, that episode was interesting because they took various plot lines that were separate in the anime and kind of meshed them into one. So you had Mad Bro, who's like a fucking super soldier experiment. You had the whole Vicious. In this show, Vicious is hiring various bounty hunters to kill Spike, which is what he didn't do in the anime. He just had his mafia good. But anyway, so Vicious hiring, using Mad Perot as one of his hired hitmen to try to take out Spike. Interesting idea, because him and Spike had this crazy fight. It's a really weird episode, but it stands out because of how crazy the fight between them was. So now there's motivation for Mad Perot to fight Spike. But then they also tied in the whole thing with Ein being this genetically enhanced super dog into the storyline where, because Mad Perot did have a problem with animals, but it wasn't dogs. I think it was a cat it was a cat that was there when he was being experimented on. So whenever he saw a cat, it would piss him off. But they changed it to dogs. They tied in Ein being this super dog, and like, that was interesting. And I was kind of getting into the episode, but then as it kept going and Mad Perot transformed further into the clown, and then he's like, the fight sequence was fucking lame between him and Spike, which I think this might have been the episode where John Cho injured himself, but there's like a whole unnecessary, like really unnecessary explosion that happens. And I don't know if that was him or the stuntman, but it looked like whoever it was on screen looked like they got tossed around pretty badly, and that might have been the episode that John Cho injured himself on, but that was a waste. But other than that, the camaraderie between him and Jet was really good. Mustafa Shakir, I first saw him on Luke Cage season 2. He was great in that, and he was great in this too. I think he did the best out of the show. He also looks very accurate to the anime. Besides being black, he looks like Jet. He kind of sounds like the voice actor, because the voice actor in the dub was the black man. But the changes to Jet were nothing too bad, but just unnecessary. So Jet in both this and the anime was a cop who got fucked over. He ended up losing his arm, and the reason behind it is different. In the anime, he lost his arm because his partner set him up. He was working with they was trying to find this dirty cops that was working with the corruption between this mafia and the police, and he tracked down this hitman, and they set him up, and he lost his arm. He thought the hitman was the one who took out his arm, but it just revealed later on that it was his partner. In this, so he gets a metal arm, and then he tries to work with the police, but then he realizes he can't deal with the corruption, so he quits, becomes a bounty hunter. In this show, and he's single. In this show, he's divorced. He has a little daughter. He was a cop who was set up and he ends up losing his arm just like in the anime, but he gets framed and he gets locked up for like 5 years for some reason. So he's got like this, his reputation is pretty fucked up within, you know, around the police and all that, because he got framed for being a dirty cop, which he's not. His ex-wife is now married to this cop that he used to work with, but wasn't his partner. But he doesn't trust because he thinks that guy was the dirty cop. We find out that no, it was the partner. I was getting worried, but no, they kept it very much to the episode where it was the partner that set him up. Chalmers is just there. He's just a guy that's there who's banging his ex-wife. I don't know why they felt the need to give Jet an ex-wife and him to be sort of trying not to be a deadbeat dad. I don't know why, but it doesn't completely change the character, but that's what they did. Whatever. But then there's this whole run-on gag where he's trying to find this walking Sally doll for his daughter, which I didn't think any of it was funny, but it's there. Yeah, it's weird. Now there's a line, there's a lot of cringe dialogue. I forgot to mention it. There's cringe dialogue. Some of this dialogue is just not good. There was this moment where Chet needs some information. It's this lady, I forget what her name was, with Harry or something like that. I don't know. It's some lady that he's getting information from, and she clearly, older white lady, has this huge crush on Jet. She's trying to push up on him, and god damn it, this woman, she was trying. She tried. I can't. This woman tried. She really did. They gave her this cringe line where she's trying to get some information from Jet, but she wants Jet to go on a date with her, and Jet's like, "Oh, this kind of seems like blackmail." And she was like, "Yes, it is, because Jet, you are black and you are male." And I'm like, no. They can't. Who wrote this? God damn it, Chris Yost. That was cringe.
Me, you, bottle of Chianti, 2 bottles if we're feeling dangerous.
Sounds to me like blackmail.
You're damn right it is, because Jet, you are black and you are male.
That woman tried her hardest to sell that, and it was just bad. I had to pause it. I was like, that was bad. So I saw the clip on Twitter. Like, that clip was going through all over Twitter. Actually seeing it in the context, it was no better. That shit was bad. That shit was bad. She said, "You are black and you are male," and he just stood there and took it. I was like, There was a whole nother line where Jet was talking to Chalmers. He was like, "Oh, you want to throw me a bone like you throw my wife a bone every now and then," some shit like that. I was like, what are we doing? Like, why are we saying this dumbass shit? It was bad. It was bad. Most of Faye's jokes were bad too, where she just like, "Oh, you fucking dicks," or "You fucking jerk offs," or some dumb shit. It was unnecessary. So that's with Jet. That was the bullshit with Jet. But he still was the best, I think, out of the show, even though they gave him some goofy shit. He was overly positive and cheesy for some reason. I think he should have been a little bit grittier, but I don't know. It was, he was very dedicated to the team, which is from the anime, but then there was moments where he was like overly dedicated, where he's like, "Spike, why don't you tell me what you're doing? Spike, we gotta be a team. We gotta work together." It was like, all right, calm the fuck down, Jet. But anyway, so Faye, played by Daniela Pineda. This was one of the ones that a lot of fans were immediately upset. People were upset with because she didn't have the exact same outfit that she had in the anime, which any rational person should have known that they weren't going to do that. They weren't going to do that outfit. That outfit is way too skimpy. They're not going to. If they couldn't do Eon Flux's outfit, you know goddamn well they weren't going to do Faye's outfit. But the redesign I thought was fine. I thought it was weird though that she had purple in her hair, but Spike didn't have, his hair wasn't green. Maybe they tried it and it just didn't look good. I don't know. Minor nitpick there. But so Faye in this show, they first introduced her as a badass bounty hunter. Like, she's a badass bounty hunter because in the first episode, Spike and Jet are trying to arrest this couple, and then Faye comes in and she gets to fighting with Spike. She goes toe to toe with Spike, and I'm sitting there like, what is this bullshit? Because Faye cannot fight. Faye's not a fighter. She does not go toe to toe with no fucking body. Faye is a shooter. Faye is more likely to shoot a motherfucker than she is to throw hands with somebody. So the fact that Faye just out of nowhere is going hand to hand with Spike, who is a known badass fighter, I'm like, it's a little weird. Like, different, but I wasn't feeling it. And then it was weird because that was her first appearance, and as the show goes on, it's like they play it both ways, where they want her to be a badass fighter, but then they also kind of want her to be like the show where she can't fight. And it's these weird moments where she's kicking ass, but then there's other moments she can barely kick ass. It was a weird handling of the character. But anyway, so she comes in and they playing her more as a badass. They're taking away most of the sex appeal from those moments where she's dressed sexy, but she's not doing it as much as she was in the show, where she would use her looks to disarm people and then she would fuck them over. They don't do most of that. They rely more on her humor, her being rash and talkative and talking shit, which was the character, but it's just what she had to say wasn't that good. What was the other thing? So her story is interesting because she's a grifter who fucks over a lot of people, and it starts to bite her in the ass, which they kind of got rid of most of that. Like, they didn't get into it as much. They focused more on her being like off the gate. Like, what was it, episode 3 when she pops up? They just off the gate. It's like, oh, I was cryogenically frozen, and now I'm trying to figure out who set me up, which that was revealed way later in the show. I thought they would have built up to it, but they didn't. Same thing with Jet, where they were just like, oh, I got fucked over, and I'm trying to figure, like, they build up to it in the anime. This show, they just immediately go straight to this stuff, which was at breakneck speed. You got 10 episodes. They could have built up to it, but whatever. So she's got that. There's the stuff between her and Spike. Her and Spike become friendly way too soon. In the anime, they always would bicker back and forth. Spike doesn't like Faye. He does not fuck with Faye. He's like, I don't like women with bad attitudes. Faye has a bad attitude. And they always go back and back. They always hitting at each other and fucking each other over, making jokes at each other's expense. They did that for like maybe an episode and a half, and then they had a whole episode where they kind of have to work together. I think that was the Jet episode where they do his backstory stuff, and they just hang out talking about, gaining respect for each other because she reveals that she's done various bounty hunter stuff and she actually captured this one guy, so Spike is now respectful to her. Whatever, it was I didn't care for it because I thought the humor between them bickering back and forth was way better, so they got rid of that. She's trying to track down Whitney Haggis Masumoto, which in the anime was just this dude that woke her up from the cryogenics, pretended to be someone that was like her lawyer trying to help her, and he woos her and she falls in love with him, and then she finds out that this guy was scamming her, and she not only has her debt that she has to pay, but he's like pet some of his debt onto her as well. So now she has to, that's one of the reasons why she's so eager to run away and scam people to try to pay off her debts, because this asshole fucked her over. In the show, they build it up where like Whitney Haggis Masumoto is this big time criminal, and for some reason is a woman, and for some reason is not only a woman but like posed as Faye's mom, and she was kind of forced to pretend to be her daughter, and they kind of worked together as like a grifter group, and then she eventually broke away from her because she had stole her information and she wanted it back. I don't know why they felt the need to change it that much and add extras to it, because what they added was not good. That was a rough episode. Is that 5? That was either episode. No, I think it was episode 7. I think that was the episode when it started to go off the cliff. 6, I think, was the one where he was hooked up in the machine. Yeah, so it was 7. That was a rough episode. God damn, that was when they get into that and she's pretending to be her mom and they're hiding their information. It was, I did not care for it. And then the Russian guy comes in and it's some weird sex thing that they, like outside of the show, that could have been fun. But because I'm attached to the show, that shit annoyed the fuck out of me. I don't know. It didn't work for me. But when they did get to the point where she sees the VHS, in the anime it was Betamax, but when she sees the video of her as a little girl and her talking to her, that actually was nice. They did a very good job at recreating that, because they basically just took the dialogue from the anime, and I liked it. That did work for me, because how they did it, but it was the way they got there was not good. And the reveal, I don't know, they might change the whole, her being in the accident. They might even change all of that shit for no reason. So I don't fucking know. But she could have been a lot better than what they did. And there were some other characters they added. The character Anna, who's basically a play on the character Annie, who was Mao. Mao was the guy that was in charge of the mafia, the syndicate, the Red Dragon Syndicate on Mars. She was his wife. they took that character and changed it, where she's just this random lady who was loosely connected to the mob, and she now runs like a jazz club, and she's kind of like a motherly figure to Spike that he talks to every so often now that she knows that he's alive. Not necessary. I don't know why they felt the need to do that. Wasted a lot of screen time, just wasting time with that. And Grin, they have Grin, who was played by Mason Alexander Park. Grin was wasted. Okay, so Grin is actually an interesting character. And in a way was a representation of an LGBT character. Maybe not the greatest how it was done, but it was still far better than what the fuck they did with this show. So in this, Grin is just, I'm assuming gay, I'm not sure. He's a guy who wears a dress and is bitchy and snappy. That's all he is. He works for the lady at the jazz bar. That's all he is. That's all he is. That's all he does. Which is disappointing because in anime, Grin was this guy who we find out was in. Okay, so there was like a war on Titan or whatever. So it was a war. Vicious and him fought together in the war. Vicious saved his life, so Grin was like thinking that they were friends. But there's a moment in the war where Vicious fucks him over and basically leads Grin to get court-martialed or whatever, get arrested. So once Grin breaks free, he sets up a plan to try to get revenge on Vicious. And there was this whole thing where there was like some sort of gas or whatever, the chemical that they used in the war. There was a side effect on Grin, and that sort of physically changed his body to where he was a man, but he was also like a woman at the same time. He had like more like a woman's features as well. So, and that he kind of played a duality where he would pose as Julia, who was the love interest. He used that code name. He met Julia when she was on the run from Vicious, and she also explained to him that like, yo, don't trust Vicious. He's a piece of shit. So basically, he was posing as a drug dealer to try to get Vicious in a way to kill him as revenge for setting him up and also betraying him. And it was a really interesting character. And they did none of that. They did none of that with him in this show. What the fuck? But anyway, so back to Vicious. So Vicious is the fucking worst in this show. And not in a good way. He's the fucking worst in the anime because he's like an evil asshole. In this, he's just a fucking idiot and a fucking dumbass. He's still evil, but he's just no. So he's played by Alex Hassel, who plays Translucent in The Boys. I love him in The Boys. He's also an asshole in The Boys, but he's fun. In this, he's just an idiot. Vicious. So he's like mafia guy. Him and Julia married, which that automatically just pisses me off. Because in the anime, him and Julia were dating. Julia has an affair with Spike. Spike then wants to run away with Julia. Vicious finds out, so he tells Julia, hey, set up Spike to get killed or I'm going to kill you. She decides not to do that, so she runs away. Spike still gets attacked. They attempt to kill him. Spike survives the attack, but he goes into hiding. And then eventually, once Vicious wants to get revenge on Spike again, he takes over his branch of the syndicate, and that draws Spike back in. Spike then is brought back in to try to take out Vicious, but then he also runs into Julia again, and it's a whole fucking thing. Julia's on the run. She's a mystery. In this, they give Julia more screen time, and she's just not that interesting. At least what they do with her. She's still a jazz singer. In the anime, she was hinted that she was more involved with the mafia shit. In this, they kind of play it where she knows, but she's not involved. But Vicious is an idiot, and she's kind of like the brains behind the operation in a weird way. She's trying to get him to be better because he's an idiot. And we find out that Vicious, in this version, the live action version, he's just a spoiled rich kid whose dad is the head of the mafia, but his dad doesn't like him because even his dad knows that his son's a fucking idiot, spoiled brat, and he's trying his best to get him to be better, although he knows his son is an entitled douchebag who just fucking sucks. Literally, like his dad even tells him this. Like there's like at least 2 good times where his dad tells him. We find out that the guy that's posing as one of the elders who wear these weird face masks, which is a nod to the anime, because in the anime they look like weird aliens. It was very weird. They just look like these weird old like Asian alien guys. So I guess they try to mimic that by them wearing these weird face masks. Whatever. But the head guy is named Caliban. He's played by John Noble, and he's Vicious's dad. And he fucking hates his own son because he knows his own son ain't shit. But then they change it because it was supposed to be Vicious and Spike were both, at least I know Spike was, an orphan. They both met each other as kids. They grew up on the tough streets of Mars. They eventually end up in the syndicate. And then the head guy of their branch, Mao, trains, brings them in, mentors them, trains them, and, raises them, essentially. He's like a father figure to them. Then once he turns on Spike, that whole thing happens. And then some years later, Vicious turns on Mao and takes over his branch of the mafia. And it's an interesting idea of the young guy getting rid of tradition, disrespecting the rules, and taking over shit like that. But in the show, Mao is in the show. He was like a Chinese guy or whatever in the anime. For some reason, he's a woman. He's a separate mafia don that is beefing with Vicious, and Vicious is trying to get her to join him to help take over the syndicate. And it was like, why change? I don't get why they felt the need to change it. There was nothing wrong with it, but they changed it. There's a whole plan where he's like, I'm going to take over. Because at this point, we don't know that the head guy is his dad. Like, that comes in later, and I was just like, what are we doing? So he makes a deal with Mao and some dude named Santiago, who's another head don, and they were going to be like, okay, we're going to set it up where we're going to have Vicious pretend he gets arrested by the group to pretend that he's trying to take it over. And then when they're about to kill him, his shackles would magically break loose, and then they all turn and take over the syndicate. But they fucked them over. Mao proceeds to try to kill Vicious, slices his head off. But we find out that Vicious outsmarted her, and he used hologram tech to pretend to be Santiago, and it was actually Santiago's whose head she cuts off. So then Vicious unleashes, and he goes vicious and kills everyone. And before he kills Mao, she reveals that Julia actually made a deal with her to get Vicious killed, because once she finds out that Spike is alive, she now wants to get away from Vicious and be with Spike. So Vicious is pissed. He kills his dad. He goes back and reveals to Julia, like, hey, bitch, I know you tried to set me up. So anyway, Spike, what the fuck else happened? So Spike in his past comes back to haunt him. They end up kidnapping Jet's daughter, so Jet is pissed because he's like, what the fuck's going on? Because he was under the impression that maybe Spike was like a former veteran or something, but mafia hitman, whatever. So they got the daughter kidnapped, so they go to try to save her. That doesn't work out because they were holograms, but they were all hiding out at the church, which is very reminiscent of the episode, was it Ballad of the Fallen Angels or whatever? It was a really good episode. They did a shitty version of it. So they meet up at the church. They get the daughter back. I did like that Faye came in and shot up the guys. That was cool because in the anime she was actually held hostage. She was the one that was held hostage and not the daughter, and they had to go save her. But anyway, and I think it was Jet was the one that was flying around shooting up the guys. Anyway, they get into a fight. We get the iconic scene of Vicious and Spike's got the gun, Vicious got the sword, and they're talking. And they pretty much say the line, every time I see you, you haunt my past, blah, 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 but why are you still alive? And she stabs Spike, Spike shoots him. Jet and the daughter and Faye get the fuck out of there. Spike goes back in. So they get into the fight. Everyone else is dead. So after they stab and shoot each other, Julia walks in. And she's like, all right, I'm mad at Spike because Spike's been around for all these years and he never, I guess 3 years, and he didn't once try to check up on me. Why didn't he check up on me, Spike? I thought we had a thing. Granted, they only knew each other for very little. They had one fling, and Spike wanted to get the fuck out of there, and she wanted, but whatever. So anyway, so she was sprung, he was sprung, whatever. So she's a little bit low-key mad at Spike for not coming back to free her from Vicious, and Spike was like, well, I was under the impression that you didn't want to see me because that's what Vicious said, and Anna also said it to try to keep her safe or whatever. Anyway, so she's like, "Oh, I can't believe you believe that," and she's like, "But don't worry about it because we can fix everything because the elders are gone. You can kill Vicious and you can take over the mafia. It'll be great because that's apparently what Julia wants to do now. She wants to be a mafia princess or a mafia's wife or mafioso or whatever." And Spike is like, "Nah, I don't want to do that. I left that life." So she shoots him. He falls through the window. The song plays. I got pissed off because I love that moment. Way more epic in the anime, and they fucked it up in this show. So he's falling. It doesn't have any of the impact behind it. So she then turns to Vicious, and or maybe I think it cuts away or something. Anyway, so there's a little scene after that where she's got Vicious chained up, and she's basically like, "Well, I'm gonna take over the mafia, but I'm gonna pretend like, well, I'm gonna be your face because you're gonna be locked away. Technically, you're an elder now, and whatever you say goes, but people don't not have to see you because you're an elder, and I'll just say, I'll pretend to be you even though I'm the one in control." Weird change for Julia, because in the anime she gets killed by this point. So in this, they're like, "No, we're gonna keep Julia around, and she's gonna be a mobster for some reason." Okay, so Faye flies off to go track down more about who she is. That was another thing they didn't do with Faye. There's numerous moments in the anime where Faye like fucks over the guys and leaves. Like they'll get some money, and then when she's got a little bit of money, she fucks off and leaves them, and then she gets broke again, and she's like comes back to them like, "Hey guys, I could use some help." They didn't do any of that. Like that was one of the big things about Faye's character missing. Anyway, so she leaves to go find out more about who she is. Jet is pissed at Spike because now his daughter and ex-wife and stepdad don't want anything to do with him now that she got kidnapped, and he wants nothing to do with Spike. So him and Spike are on the outs. So Spike is left alone. He's all beat up, shot up. Very reminiscent of the anime. He gets getting injured. That happened a lot more. Cause I was like, he's not getting injured as much as he did in the show. But as the show went on, he definitely did. But he's walking through the streets, and then like he passes out in the street, and then fucking voice appears that's trying to sound like another voice from the anime, and we're introduced to Radical Edward, who was played by some little girl. I feel sorry for her. That poor girl. She's playing Radical Edward. Technically, it's accurate. Like the voice, the weird movements, the way she's talking, technically is accurate to the anime. Problem is, certain things you do in a cartoon works compared to seeing a live person attempt to do that. And it comes off very cringy and very annoying and not good. Like she was annoying, but she was like a wacky, fun annoying. Seeing it in live action is like, I want to punch this kid in the face to shut up and sound fucking annoying. And it's bad. She looks like the character for the most part. I get what they were trying to do, but goddamn, like they should have toned that back. That was not good. None of that was good. So she's now telling, "Hey Spike, I want you to work for me because there's a bounty. We got to go get some guy. I don't remember the name of the guy. It didn't sound familiar to me. It's probably the bad guy from the movie. I don't know because, like I said, they burnt through so much in this one season of the main story. I don't know what the fuck is left for them to do as terms of like an overarching story for the second season. I don't know what's left. I don't want to see what's left because when they did their own original shit, it was terrible. So I'm done. But goddamn, that was, by the end of it, it really did fall apart for me. Not great, very bad, not good. But and I'm saying that as a fan of the actual series. I've seen the anime. If you haven't seen the anime, you might not think it's that bad because you have no reference to what is better. So for what it is, you might be like, that's not that bad. But I don't know. It didn't work for me. The flashback. So the whole thing with Spike, you find out Spike was like taken in by Vicious's family. So Spike was like the poor kid living with the rich kid, and then he felt the need to kind of watch over him because Vicious is a fucking idiot, but he's always got to clean up his messes. I didn't like any of that. I didn't like any of that. That was unnecessary. They had that character named Stax, who is essentially Mao. He's essentially what I would picture Mao is. He's the head. He's like a capo or whatever that's trying to who's helping train Spike and Vicious to be better within the mafia, which is what Mao did. We just never really saw it, so I don't know why they felt the need to create a whole new character when that character was already there. It was, I don't know. And then the whole thing where he like Vicious loses his mind and he ends up killing the whole, well, he kills part of the what was like the Neptune Mafia, but then like Vicious, the dad wanted Vicious killed because he's a fuck up, and Spike was supposed to kill him, but he doesn't because he felt a loyalty to Vicious, and instead he ends up killing the Neptune Mafia that's wiped them out completely just to get rid of any fear of retaliation. None of that shit worked for me. That whole, what was it, episode 9? That whole episode was just annoying as fuck. Yeah, like I said, certain things are good, but the majority of it I can't get behind. And I hate, this is what they did with my favorite anime. I don't want to see what they're going to do with Yu Yu Hakusho. That's another anime that I love. Recently, been going back and rewatching it. That's going to be fucking terrible. I just know, what they did with this is bad. What they're going to do with Yu Yu Hakusho is probably even worse, because that's even more fantastic. Like Cowboy Bebop is fairly grounded. Like, it's a straightforward sci-fi, action-adventure, noir type vibe. It's hard to fuck that up, and they managed to do that. Then you got Yu Yu Hakusho, which is way more of a fantasy. You're fighting ghosts and demons, and there's a tournament. Like, oh god, it's gonna be bad. It's gonna be bad. But those are my thoughts on this fucking train wreck. Let me know what you thought about the series in the comments. Did you like it? Were you new? Did this show turn you into a new fan? Are you more willing to check out the anime after seeing this show, or did it turn you off and you want nothing to do with Cowboy Bebop? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like this video, share it, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more videos. Peace.